Hello there, everyone. Look, we'll give about 2 minutes to let everyone log on, and so we'll start everything in 2 minutes time. Thanks. It'd be good if we had some music now, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Where's that guitar of yours, Peter?
Elevator music.
Yeah, still in the corner of the bedroom.
Oh, I've got that David Bowie song in my head now.
Ground control.
Major Tom.
Ground control.
You could sing a few verses if you really want, Merlin.
He said he can't sing.
Yeah, I think I'd scare everyone.
I just want to start laughing.
That's all right. Laughter's good medicine.
All right, so let's, are we good to start?
Yeah, we're fine.
Let's do it. Let's kick off the show. Hello there and welcome. I'm Merlin Kong, Head of Innovation here at Leading Edge Services Australia, and I'll be your host today. This is webinar number 4, which means that we're officially past the halfway mark for the Innovating Insights series. Today, we're really pleased to have Patrick Lucas from IRT, Vanessa Panisi, and Peter Sides from our gold partner, Plus Communities, join us today, and they'll be sharing their insights and experience with us with regards to using digital technology to build lively and active communities. Now, just as an aside, for those of you who are new to Innovating, we are Australia's national innovation network for the age services industry. We're supported by the Commonwealth Government, and we operate out of LASA's Centre for Workforce Development and Innovation. Now, the great work that we do could not happen without the incredible network partners that we have, and they are our foundation partners, the Commonwealth Bank and KPMG Australia, and also our gold partners, once again, Plus Communities and also Content Labs. Now, a few housekeeping details here. The format for today, we'll have Pat, Vanessa, and Peter speak for 20 minutes. And then we'll move on to a Q&A for the remainder of the time. Now, please note that this webinar is being recorded and you'll be on mute during this session. That said, I fully encourage you to ask questions and ask a lot of questions. And to facilitate that, please use the chat function in your Zoom window. Now, I'll try to get through as many questions as I can, but if I can't get to yours and you've got a question that's just dying for an answer, feel free to email events@lasa.asn.au. Now, if you didn't get that email address, not to worry. Alexis, who is delivering today's webinar with me, will be sending out a post-webinar email. It would have that email address and also a link to a recording of today's session. So, hey, look, without much further ado, Pat, I think I'll hand over the baton to you to start today's presentation.
Thanks, Merlin. Hello, everybody. Like Merlin said, I'm Pat. I'm from IRT's innovation team. And when Merlin asked us to present on this topic, or when he came up with this topic, rather, we were in the midst of those increasingly tightening preventative measures being laid out by our governments and the Department of Health. So week by week, things were changing, not only corporate, I suppose, externally, but corporately. I'm sure you were, as well as IRT was, continued rolling internal measures coming out, reducing number of participants in events, closing smaller venues, closing all community halls, bus trips being only for crucial grocery shopping trips. Now that the measures have worked, well, they're working, and that oft repeated catchphrase, unprecedented times, is beginning to shift to the new normal. We thought we'd talk to everybody today about, I suppose, what the new normal looks like, and particularly what's good in a communication platform, what your residents and your employee experiences need to be, and how I suppose it buffered us during physical isolation. So Ness, if you could please start the slideshow.
Can you see it? Can you see that, Pat?
Well, no, I can't actually.
Merlin, can you see the page?
No, I can't.
Oh, gee, okay.
Just need to share it.
Yep.
I was sharing it, sorry. Hang on. My apologies, I thought it was sharing.
That's so good. I'll do because we're really tight for time, we've got a lot of content. I'll just do the intro. So for those of you that don't know, IRT Group is a community-owned organisation in its 50th year of operation. Our mission was and still is to improve the lives of older Australians. We do that primarily through services and housing. Our footprint extends across New South Wales, ACT and Queensland, with around 40 communities and home care service hubs, with around 9,100 residents and customers each day.
There's always something wrong when you do these things, isn't it?
Love it.
Now it's telling me to connect. Oh my goodness. Pat, are you able to share yours then?
Possibly, yeah. One second.
Sorry.
No worries.
Don't know where it's gone.
All right. It says I'm sharing a screen. Can anyone see that?
No.
No.
Okay.
I can see it.
All right, here we go. I've got it.
Here, screen's working. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yep. So we'll go to slide 3, Pat.
Sure thing.
Okay, everyone, I'm Vanessa. I'm the General Manager of Customer Experience for Plus Communities. So thank you for having us here today. So Plus Communities' mission is to support organisations, individuals and communities to connect, engage and thrive. And in line with the mission, we have developed a white labelled app that supports communication through news, events, alerts, services and any offerings. In addition, we have received and won a Good Design Australia Award for the way we engaged with the clients and their customers to co-design a platform that was not only wanted, but simple to use.
As we developed the platform, we focused on the power of storytelling. We know for a fact that stories are a strong way to demonstrate how your organisation is delivering on its brand promise. And it also demonstrates how it is that you go about placing your values into action. So that was a strong focus that we kept in mind as we worked through the development of the platform.
So now that you've heard our introduction, we would like to introduce you to Susie, who is what we call a power resident within a retirement village, talking about her experiences with the app. If you don't mind playing the video, please, Pat.
Sure thing. Perhaps, I don't know if people are getting sound, but would you like to talk through what Susie's actually talking to us about?
Good idea. So Susie is head of the resident committee for a village there, and she's just talking about the ease and benefits of having the app, especially when it comes to coordinating events within a village. She tends to use the app every Sunday to plan her week, but also as a resident, as part of the resident committee, she also likes to see what the other residents are actually doing within the village. So if knitting club is not of any benefit, no one's attending, they get rid of it. So they get to understand who is into what in their village, so to speak.
All right. I realized I hadn't clicked the share computer sound when I shared my screen. My apologies. The rest of the video should be good though.
That's okay, thanks.
Oh, now we're listening to Susie again. Okay, so what I didn't mention earlier when I talked, I suppose my general introduction about IRT was, one of the questions popped to us was, why did we look for technology? And one of the things that I suppose I should start with is that IRT didn't look for technology first, but we looked to identify and solve problems first. We use an innovation methodology called the 6 Eyes of Innovation that allows us to properly identify not only symptoms that are often tried to be addressed, but underlying causes and issues, and then allows us to work through in an iterative way to a proper solution. We ran a challenge on a platform called Co-Ventured, run by the Slingshotter Startup Hub. And from that challenge, we had 50 applicants ranging from startups providing solutions around communication, financial transparency, scheduling transparency, and health and well-being. Now, Plus were one of the groups who made it through to the final, and we chose to trial the Plus solution with them because of the way that they were able to not only develop the app with us, but buy into the idea of developing technology for and with our residents. Do I want to reshare my screen, Ness?
Yes, please. Sorry, I'm still having problems. Sorry, everyone.
There it is.
All right. So with that in mind, our pilots were started in November last year at 2 of our retirement villages, one in Sydney, one in the Sunshine Coast. And they were for cohorts of 90 and 260 dwellings each. Over the first few months, this was the introductory period before we cut across to having more focused usage on the My Village, the white labeled Plus Communities app. So some of the general learnings that we'd like to share with you today are about, I suppose, the effectiveness of the tool. The first one being that residents actually felt an increased community connection. They're able to share little tidbits, comments, emoji on responses or content that other residents were creating. They're able to notify each other about what they might be bringing to the mystery ball, the mystery dance dinner. And they've actually used a lot of the feature set to build out and keep themselves in community. One of the other things that was really important was resident power users. They're the ones best equipped to take charge of the platform. When it comes to content moderation, that actually takes a big slug of time. And it's probably a resource strain that a lot of us wouldn't really want to approach right now with the way things are under this new normal. So what we actually did and found was empowering certain residents, whether it be the resident committee or the social committee, they took this on board and they ran with it. I can't say anything, I couldn't praise them highly enough in terms of how well they adopted to using technology and persevering with it over the last few months. The other thing was, all of a sudden, we have this new direct channel into our resident cohorts. The bit of advice there is to use that channel well. Everything from corporate COVID alerts through to issues about maintenance, through to if the fish truck's coming through the Woodlands Village, that was used for that. So we found that that was one of the most used and most appreciated features when we went through our observations and interviews and surveys with residents. And of course, the timing of the pilot worked out that when we did the cutover to paperless at one of the sites, isolation actually saw a huge spike in usage rates, and I'll talk to those in a little more detail in another slide. Some more general learnings. At the very beginning and about midway through, when we chose to make the cutover from using both the old paper system and the notice boards through to just using the My Village Plus app, there was some significant resistance from certain members within the community who felt like technology was being forced upon them. They did not want technology to replace the face-to-face community that they'd actually moved in for. The whole value proposition of moving into the retirement village is to be amongst and be with like-age, like-minded people. So that meant that the resident-driven change management program, where I touched on earlier about having super users engaged early and oft repeating the same key messaging, worked really, really well for us. Not only that, but having the Plus team on board, on site weekly to advocate and to work with the resident champions embedded in the community actually made that transition a lot easier. Even still, that cutover there was about 2 weeks worth of, I won't say insanity, but there was 2 weeks worth of interesting times before it all smoothed out and we saw our residents adopt the new system. And then above all else, for when it comes to UX, user experience, residents want simplicity. So they only want to see what they need to know, what's relevant for them today. So whether it's today's or this week's events, and it depends on the usage behaviors. So we had some people who are logging in once a week and they would RSVP to all of the community events that they thought they'd be going to. They'd have a quick look at the information. There were others who were coming on daily to check any new content from staff, IRT, or other residents. But above all, what they wanted was a simple UX. Now, like I said, on March 1, we chose to take the one site in Queensland, Woodlands, paperless. So what about our notice board that we just upgraded was one of the feedback points from that opening session. Well, it'll still be there, but we're going to try a combination of you with your mobile phone and Plus, and an iPad kiosk set up right next to the notice board. And just to give you a sample of some of the statistics, during the month of March, we had 19 new signups. So the late hangers on who are still trying to use that paper system. So of the 60 plus dwellings in Woodlands, we had 88 user accounts that were resident, plus another 5 to 10 staff and plus accounts supporting them. Something like 2,600 sessions where people were spending about 3 minutes on the app, just going through the new alerts, the surveys, the news, and what events run for that day. We saw a little less usage for the event management, so RSVPs and cancellations, just because of what was happening at that point in time. When we compared the data set to prior, it was actually, I think isolations actually skewed it because there was less things to RSVP to virtual events and didn't necessarily need that RSVP to secure your seat in the bus or in the small community hall. We saw residents post up 45 new pieces of content themselves. So this is not generated by IRT staff, who I think only might have put 5 to 10 up in comparison.
Yep.
And then the chat groups, private and public, for that general conversation, as well as one of the new features that the Plus guys developed in situ, which was responding to resident needs about having their phone numbers listed within the app user listing so they could call directly from that rather than having to go and find the old paper phone book that we were so used to updating and actually keeping track of. So I'd just like to talk through some of the resident quotes that I've just put up for you. So the resident chair of our Woodlands community actually said, this is something that you've got to let us take charge of. This can be something by us, for us. We've got a strong community. And as you know, each community has its own personality. They run things the way they want to run things. And they create their own individual and unique cultures. So that was really important for them to be able to make sure that they kept control of the communications channels. Rather than it being a monthly or a weekly newsletter, now they had the ability to flexibly and easily support and facilitate communications and across the board. A couple of the I'll just quickly talk about a couple of the stories. Top right quote there is actually from one of our residents who's visually impaired. She has a great relationship with the neighbors around her. And what she said was, with this app and the combination of Apple VoiceOver, I now no longer have to wait for my neighbor to tell me what's actually appeared in the elevator or what's actually going to be happening for the week, or if there have been any changes. Now, more specifically for isolation, just a whole bunch of feedback about how the burning platform that we're sitting on, being that now we're stuck inside our own villas and our own apartments, forced that adoption. And what it's actually said is there was an overwhelming appreciation for the ability to stay in contact and still do the same things they used to do. So you might have noticed earlier, I put a screenshot in about someone putting up the notice to who wants to quilt a blanket, or who wants to start ukulele classes using the live streaming events. So it was a really useful tool for them staying connected, as well as to receive information during those critical times. Now, this is a quote from Vanjie, who is the village manager up at Woodlands in the Sunshine Coast. And I think she hits it really well when she says, the timing, we couldn't have planned it better. We wouldn't have bet on a pandemic coming through and forcing adoption up to over 95%. What she says there about it being a fantastic tool and the ability to be able to pass on important and urgent information quickly was absolutely crucial for her. So I'll quickly touch on the staff benefits. As you can see there on the right-hand side, that's just a screenshot of an example alert that Vanjie's managed to push out to her community. One of the biggest things that she said was time saving by removing manual processes, whether that's by editing and managing the newsletter that comes out, whether it's the door knocks and the letterbox drops for the alerts and notices and important information, about managing events, about managing the bus list. Some of the other benefits realized were we now actually have live analytics of the events and information that residents actually want and engage with most. And then we're able to tailor the calendars and we're able to tailor our content to meet that, which is a brand new thing. The use of alerts, and it also provided a window for prospective customers or friends of residents within the village to invite into the villages. So whether they be carers who can be linked to a particular resident, or family members or prospective customers, they're all able to get a version or a viewpoint of the application to be able to see what life would actually be like at Woodlands or Macarthur. So just a couple more things here. Absolutely vital in sending out COVID updates. It's been a great tool to keep residents in touch with each other during isolation. There's less effort and cost involved on staff part because residents are able to actually take and adapt as they need. So for instance, being able to drop an event in 3 days beforehand, push an alert out saying who would like to come to this event on Saturday, and actually getting a response, and being able to track who's actually attended versus who's RSVP'd, who's paid, who hasn't. And then utilizing that new feature that the Plus guys put in for us to live stream, to continue events and other activities.
So I wanted to share a favourite quote of mine from Professor Laurie Byes. In addition to co-designing and collaborating with IRT and other clients, we are inspired by leveraging the gift of longevity. And to quote her at the last paragraph, we must change our approach from just focusing on health and care to participation and support. So we would like to invite you to think about how to prepare and benefit from digital technology to enhance communication within a community.
We know through our experience that your customers are ready to engage and embrace technology, engaging through virtual networks, accessing information, being informed about the goods and services that you provide or perhaps you provide in partnership with others. It's an opportunity for you to pursue being a broker and connecting them with information and services that they are looking for to live the life that they choose. As you engage on the platform, the information and the stories that are being developed very much become your simple documentation, indeed evidence of your compliance with standards and codes of practice. And it's happening there. You've got the evidence building up time in and time out, day in and day out, by actually enabling and supporting the critical communication amongst your community members.
So in this next video, we would like to show you 3 ladies living in a nursing home who are benefiting from using the app. If you don't think RAC residents and families will embrace technology, listen to this. Oh,
Sorry.
it's all right, Pat.
Out and about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's their fun propeller.
So can you tell me a little bit about how your experience with the app has been?
I see it as a great tool for my family to be able to see what I've been doing and what I'm up to and what's on here. But also I see it for the people that aren't able, that are in the residential aged care but aren't able to use the phones, but have the app for their family to be able to see what they're doing and their family to be able to have that connection with them when they can't come every day to visit.
Anything that we want, they're able to supply, given enough time, and put it on our program, which is given out, which will be a valuable asset on our app, because we will be able to see it on the app without having to worry about looking on at paper, and you know, it's going to be so easy.
Yeah, that's good that you limit all the paper, because getting notice boards and everything up for that would be a nightmare.
And this was really good for me, because I was struggling, because I went one night in my room and how easy the app is, and I just said, oh, well, I'll press this button, this button, this. Oh, I'm there. And I thought, wow, I did it. So that's how easy the app is.
So COVID made us fast-tracked a lot of products that were already on our roadmap. And a few examples that we have brought forward a lot faster was a payment gateway. We found cash is no longer king, and it could be certainly reinforced in the coming months or years. We also developed a digital phone directory, what that Pat was talking about earlier. It's very simple for people to just simply add their phone numbers under their profile, and you can just call somebody or text them. Very simple, eliminating a paper directory, which constantly needs updating. Another fun feature developed was the ability to comment. It's very important to comment within news and events, especially if there's a death. There was a story where we did have a death in one of the villages, and due to the limitations of attendance at a funeral, a lot of people in the village were able to pay their condolences. So a live streaming was also born, which we're very proud of. We learned a resident was going to turn 100 and her family were unable to attend. They were all living in Canberra. They paid for the party in the village, but obviously, you know, there was no way of watching it easily. So the staff live streamed the entire event so the family could watch it, no matter where they were, and it certainly helped her celebrate her special day. Channel 9 picked up on the story, and Pat, if you don't mind playing the next video for me, have a look at what they said.
It had to be really simple because there's 100 things going on. The Channel 9 news crew only had an hour and a half to be able to get this story live. The cameraman couldn't actually get into the aged care facility. So they had to use some of our footage for the story. They had to lend the microphone in to someone who was already inside. It was definitely challenging. Everyone knew that they were just dedicated to getting Dallas a really nice story that her family could share in and have everyone singing her happy birthday. That's why you build technology that can give these experiences.
How good is that?
Yeah, it was pretty special.
It was brilliant.
Yeah.
And so I realized we're actually over the 20 minutes Merlin gave us, but I suppose we all just wanted to have a chat quickly about what the new normal looks like. So part of ACIITC's Forced Innovation webinar last week, Dr. George Margelis actually said 10 years of technological progress has been made inside 10 weeks. We've adopted telehealth, Maybe it's primarily currently over phone, but it's here to stay. We're billing for it. We're able to slowly transition into video calls that allow us to open up the kinds of things that we can use telehealth for, not just the low rate consultations. The Global Centre for Modern Aging launched the COVID-19 portal to try to alleviate and inform the people of our cohort. My Health Record, I think they're expanding with another 20 app developers. So there were some articles out about risks around security, but the fact that that is being expanded from 3 apps to 20 is quite a big thing. And then as to the payment gateway that Vanessa and Peter talked about just a second ago, is cash still king? We've all seen the no cash please signs up on the cafes and the grocery stores or the fruit shops that we've gone to in the last few months. What is going to be the next thing? How soon will it be before we actually transition out? So that being said, thank you very much. Thank you very much for putting up with our technical glitches.
Yeah. I think we failed there, but thanks for your patience. So stay safe and stay connected.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that presentation, guys. And not to worry about the technical glitches. These things do happen. Patrick, if I can get you to, thanks. So look, we've got a couple of questions that have been asked here, but I just wanted to lead off with a very broad one, because it's been an overriding question that's been asked through the whole webinar series, in that for IRT and for Plus communities, what were the levers of success in this engagement or this collaboration? So if you were to reflect on when you started down this journey of working together and designing the apps and the features, what made it work organizationally?
For me, it was the fact that both parties were very much focused on the resident outcome. Mm-hmm. That was primarily it. Whenever the Plus guys came to the table, it was always about, have you seen this new feature that we could possibly do? Because we got feedback of X village and Y village, and we got feedback of social secretary and residents we were just talking to after the meetings. Mm-hmm. It was all about improving that resident experience. Yep. So for me, that was probably the foundation for how we were able to work so well.
Okay.
Yeah, for us also, Merlin, I'd just like to add that what we mentioned earlier about the co-design, in fact, the award that we got from Good Design Australia wasn't just about the use of technology in the space. It was the approach of actually sitting with the clients, but more importantly, with their customers. Mm-hmm. The comment that the ladies had from the nursing home about the usage. So it's about actually being introduced and sitting with someone and talking to them about their user experience, what their fears are, and how best to overcome them, and to work with them collaboratively, because they want to engage, but it's actually removing that initial fear and working collaboratively before we had a product to sit with the end user and continue that engagement. And that's something we've continued with Pat and the rest of the team of IRT. In fact, I can't imagine that actually ceasing.
Yeah. Okay, and look, and I think this is a supplementary question to what you said, Peter, and thanks for that insight. I guess when you're looking at something like this, you're looking at sort of this broad spectrum of users, from staff to residents, and skill sets, or digital skill sets would be pretty broad also. And just building on what you said just now with regards to fear of using the app and whatever have you. How do you cater for all this big variance in digital skills?
Well, I was going to say, I think there are residents who are very comfortable with the application and are very happy to share. I also think Plus Communities is very good at coming in and supporting the community from the start and staying with them until we feel as though everyone is 100% comfortable. I literally just got a call from a power resident during this webinar right now. And I'm always on call to everybody. At the moment, I'm not visiting them, but I am certainly taking phone calls if anyone has any questions. So it's building up that confidence. It's going a little bit slower with teaching them the technology than what it would be for us, but it certainly comes together.
Okay, so that almost also touches on that sort of success levers with regards to this initiative, isn't it? So there's constant engagement with your users. There's this alignment within an organization and vendor. Okay, that's really interesting. And I guess, some of the numbers, Pat, that you threw out, the 2,600 plus sessions, 1150 event RSVPs, 1960 read receipts. I mean, those are pretty significant numbers for a pilot initiative. You know, from your sense with regards to sort of running this on the IRT side, I mean, what are the key indicators for you with regards to the fact that residents like using this app or don't like using this app? I mean, what are some things there?
The key indicators that they like using the app. The obvious one is that they were using the app. I noticed there was a question from Denise about how long we should get them to aim for in terms of visitation. And we very much took the mindset that the technology was only there to facilitate communication. So whether they spent 60 seconds on it daily or 3.5 or 5 minutes on it weekly, it didn't particularly matter as long as they were on the platform and they were able to stay up to date how they wanted to. It was very individual. Those who were the power users or those who were in charge of particular events would spend more on managing the RSVP lists and communicating with their groups. But and then there were others who'd only use it for phone calls, others who'd only use it to check the IRT information as it came out. In terms of some of the critical things for us were around efficiencies and effectiveness as a communication tool. We ticked that. Yep. You saw the quotes from Vanji earlier about how critical a tool was to be able to easily distribute information. Everything from a water main bursting up the street through to when they're allowed to start coming back into the main hall again and being able to set RSVP limits as well.
Yep. And look, just sort of, can you share with us some resident stories? Like the ones that sort of stick out in your mind that they're just like, wow, this is just fabulous.
If I'm not mistaken, the resident who I think called Vanessa would be one of our stories.
Okay.
She is the secretary of the social group at Woodlands. She's an absolute gun. She came into this thinking, oh my gosh, what are they going to make me do now? I've just gotten used to using Word and tables to come up with the calendars. And in talking to her, she used to stress out hard about any edits or any errors that were made in the calendar, and then having to put out an announcement or an updated announcement out used to stress her out. She was one of the most regular people that attended those weekly sessions with Vanessa and the Plus team up there. And she became one of our super users in terms of keeping the content ball rolling, keeping those events updated. She went from being uncertain to, while still on the face of it, having a bit of a grizzle, absolutely enjoying what she was able to do.
And she's really keen to learn. She's really enjoying uploading better pictures. I'm even teaching her Canva to do some great graphic designs and things like that. And I can't wait to get up and see her again because she's really keen to learn and really wants to make her platform look really swish.
Yeah.
Merlin, could I just jump in there too? Because the question that I saw there, and it was something around when if 80% of residents in a RAC environment have dementia, how we can contribute to their unmet need there. That's the biggest strong thing that we worked in partnership with clients around the family application of the app. Okay. And I think the three ladies that were in the video earlier mentioned that in relation to the usage. Family then have insight through the version of the app to the life's activities and all of the great services and engagement that is actually happening in and around their loved one. They can see that and engage with that. And via the staff who are able to upload the events, etc., the family themselves can actually get insight to the life that their loved one is living when they may not be able to share that back to them themselves. So the loved one may not recall the activities that they're engaging with, and the staff will be reaffirming to families that their loved one is participating, in activities, but the person may not recall. So that's having the insight through the family version of the app where that engagement can happen. And that's just one example where I still believe, as the residents in that video clip confirmed, that even for residents with dementia, the family's engagement, their ability to see, to ask questions, participate in surveys, understand and receive information
feel part of the community.
From the providers is a way that platform can assist those with dementia.
And in fact, we just received feedback from a RAC village that they have had 0 complaints from family since the start of COVID due to the app, which is unheard of.
Yeah. So with regards to, and just building on that in a different setting. So for example, if we were moving from a retirement village setting to a residential aged care setting, what would you sort of do to customize it more for a residential aged care facility, or would you?
I wouldn't change it. I'd keep it the same. They're still very active RAC residents. And as we move further with baby boomers coming through, they're very tech savvy. I think we're just learning now at an early stage, and we're getting ready for the boom.
It's the engagement also, Merlin, between the staff in utilising the app and the versions of it, etc., together with the family. That's where the true richness of this in the RAC environment comes to the fore.
Okay. And with regards to that, I guess that's probably one of the strengths of the app, in that it's portable through different settings. But going down at a more micro level, with regards to these power users that you guys mentioned, could you talk me through a little bit further as to what a power user does, or what's their role, and also how do you account for, or how do you make room for them to do things differently as need be? I think the phrase that Pat mentioned earlier on was "by us, for us." So how, building on that phrase, how does that actually get made real?
We have different admin access on the back end. The families will see different things to what every village person will see. Power residents get a certain amount of control. Vangie, for instance, who we talked about, has full control as to what's on the app. We can even have certain residents submit something to maybe sell if they want to. I had a lady who wanted to sell her back deck umbrella, and it goes. Vangie can put settings into the back end so that it gets approved before it goes live on the app. The power residents, it gives them control rather than sole control of the corporation or the IRT, for instance. It makes it feel like it's their app. They get control as to what they put on there. The social committees in particular love it, organising social events. But even during lockdown, we had to change things up. We had to put a lot more different events in there to help people who were alone. We were putting puzzles in, documentaries. We were live streaming the opera, SpaceX launch, all those things. We were coming up with really fascinating ways to keep the community engaged in the events section, as well as updating with COVID events and any important news that needed to be put out there.
Okay. Now that's thanks for that. Now through the presentation that the three of you did, I hear words like easy to use and minimal, and I guess so with regards to the app as a platform and an app with features, how did you guys determine what features to use and what not? Was this an exercise in subtraction as much as it was an exercise in addition?
I think it was primarily addition. There was some subtraction in relation to how it is that you engage with the app with particular features, and the way that, like, we've had the ability for comments and engagement via groups, but not via then when a story was shared or a post was shared. So being able to add that, we found that it's more about addition. And it's really the design that's evolved around the additions from time to time. And that's come from that engagement, a balance between it's an organisational benefit tool, it's a resident tool. What it really is a tool to enhance the healthiness of the community, and all community members play a role in providing feedback to us about the features that they want to see evolve in the platform.
Okay, and how do you maintain confidentiality with the app or through the app?
So when we started, I suppose I'll give the IRT version. When we started negotiating around the trial, we engaged our legal team fairly early on. And when we took them through the capabilities and the feature sets of the app and the security of it, because we were able to create user accounts on the spot during the sign-up sessions, we had a specific set of terms and conditions loaded in. So that meant that they accepted the terms and conditions of use. We explained it all through them clearly. It also meant that they would then control what details other residents could see about themselves. So just like the physical phone book that gets published every couple of months in the retirement village, people opt in or opt out of whether they want their name, phone number, email listed. Same for the app. So the only people that can view the content on the application are those who have been invited into that specific environment of that specific community.
Okay.
So you can't have anyone else coming in.
Sure. Okay. So we're almost towards the end. So I've got two questions to ask you. One is that InnovAging itself, we're sort of in a process of implementing or going live on our InnovAging app. And I guess, you know, given that the three of you have walked the walk with regards to, you know, onboarding users and you know, increasing usage rates and all of that, what tips would you have for me with regards to managing my app?
I have a very big background in communities and applications. I actually come from a previous company where I was looking after all commercial sector and building communities within each building. So I came over to Plus because I always had a fascination in this sector, and I was really surprised that it was never developed. It is very easy to match what I have done in the past and the skills I have learned, such as launch parties, but you also got to eliminate something, such as what Pat did with paper. By eliminating paper out of that community, it forced the community to actually use it and show how simple it was. Especially now with, if you calculate how much money you spend on paper alone per year, between printing, toner, machine costs and everything, that in itself is a huge saving within an organisation. So you've got sometimes finding that one thing certainly helps to start the ball rolling.
Okay, wonderful.
From my point of view, sorry, Merlin.
No,
there's two things. The first one is, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a UX meme where what the user does or what the person designed, and there's a nice lawn and a paved, you know where I'm going, right? And there's a nice paved walkway, and there's what users actually do, and there's a groove worn into the lawn. That is what your users will do.
Yeah.
They will unknowingly, unwittingly destroy anything you try to design.
Yeah. No, and that's a good thing, right? Because it makes it a stronger platform.
Exactly. And now the thing for us was, what's in it for me was the thing that we keep coming back to as well. What's in it for me? Why would I want this application? Why would I want it on my phone or on my iPad? Why would I bother signing in and having a look?
Okay.
That was the key for us in terms of managing that.
All right. So thanks for that. So in closing, so I've got a question that's just come my way, and I'll just read it off from the screen. So what are one or two key themes that have emerged from the HPO Royal Commission report where the Plus app and digital technology can play an enhanced and current aged care can play to enhance the current aged care environment? Sorry about that.
That's all right. I think, Merlin, some of the themes that have come through, and I've read also people's or organisations' analysis of the interim report. I think three words come to mind: transparency in relation to the provision of information that is available and not difficult to find and to search for. And platforms such as ours and digital technology definitely plays a role there. Access to services, I believe that the Commission was really talking about perhaps the initial journey when people are looking for services and what's available. But I also think it's important about finding platforms where you've got the ability to engage with prospects, because Patrick mentioned earlier about the ability of our platform being able to version to be developed for prospects. So you can communicate and engage with them and inform them before they access anything and they become part of your community. But also when you've got people there, reminding them and finding ways of efficiently doing that about how it is that they can continue to access perhaps more than what they do now, and being reminded about how it is that they can find things and being simply connected to the services that they need. And the final thing I'd say is the big focus here is connectivity. Being, not socially isolated, being able to connect easily and to friends and family and to services outside. And the final thing I'll say was that Patrick mentioned there about how long, what was the measure of success about how long people stayed on the app. From our point of view, that addressing the social isolation and engaging people to live the life they want to live, I think it's important that digital technology plays a part in informing. Yes, you can get that engagement, but then encouraging people to go out and engage with other human beings. And I think that that's a final one as well. And those sorts of things and themes are actually coming out, I believe, through the Royal Commission as well.
All right, thanks for that, Peter. Pat, would you like to add anything here?
The only one I can think of is we didn't really mention some of the features because we ran out of time, but there are the ability to communicate directly with staff, the ability to provide feedback over the application. That might help you address standard 6 in feedbacks and complaints.
Definitely.
The fact that it's accessible, the fact that it's confidential, and that it's sitting in the manager's inbox or on their admin panel by the time you press the send button, I think is a fairly big tick for that one.
Okay. And Pat, sort of, and I'll let you have the last word on today's session to close it out. If you were to think about one important success factor for innovation with aged care organizations, what would it be for you? It's going to be different for everyone, but for you, what jumps to mind?
That is such a hard question. I read an article recently by, I think it's Mark Andreessen of Andreessen Horowitz, and he's saying, well, this was 10 years ago. Software was eating the world 10 years ago, he wrote. This time he was talking about how every company has to be a tech company. You can't just view it as a cost. It's actually got to be a core part of how you run your business. What that actually looks like, and I think at one point we were going to ask the audience, hey, what do you think the lead indicators are of an organization that's ready for innovation and adoption of tech? But we didn't do that, and now we're out of time, so you won't have time to respond, everybody, sorry. But I think some of the lead indicators are the fact that you've got a champion on site or on board. For instance, Vanjie and Colleen and Kevin up in Queensland, they were the initial champions that brought Plus to our attention. The people on site who really see the ability of how it can facilitate and improve processes rather than eliminate them out of a job, I think was one of the things as well.
That's exactly right.
All right then. Okay, that brings our session to a close today. Vanessa, Peter, Patrick, thank you very much for making time to join us today. It was a really incredible conversation, so I really appreciate this. All right.
You could talk about this for hours, this subject.
Yeah. Well, one of these days we'll catch up again over a coffee or something like that. All right then. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. That brings our session to a close. I look forward to seeing you again next Thursday, where we'll be talking with Amanda Kidd from LDK with her session entitled From Bushfire to Pandemic, Innovation Lessons Learned from Looking After Our Residents and Staff. Nice. So until then, enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you again for your company. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. I'll see you guys. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, man. Bye. See you, Pat.